Another day, another story. The story that referring to likely involves the escape attempt by 3 federal prisoners from Alcatraz in 1934. However, there are a few important clarifications to make.
Welcome to Taboo Eminent Channel.
Alcatraz Island, located in San Francisco Bay, was a federal prison that operated from 1934 to 1963. It housed some of the most notorious criminals in U.S. history and gained a reputation for being escape-proof due to its isolated location in treacherous waters. The escape attempt that did not involve prisoners landing on Alcatraz. Rather, it pertains to an early escape attempt from the island. On June 11, 1934, 2 years after the prison's establishment, a daring escape attempt took place involving 3 inmates: Theodore, Ted, Cole, Ralph Roe, and William, Billy, Miller. The 3 prisoners managed to obtain tools and chisels, possibly from a workshop, over a period of time. They used these tools to create a makeshift raft from raincoats and other materials, which they intended to use to cross the frigid waters of the San Francisco Bay to reach the mainland. On the night of June 11, 1934, the 3 inmates made their move. They managed to squeeze through the vents in their cells and make their way to the water's edge. They launched their makeshift raft and began their dangerous journey across the bay. However, it is widely believed that the harsh currents, cold water, and treacherous conditions proved insurmountable for the escapees. The escape attempt quickly captured the attention of prison officials and the public. A massive search operation was launched, involving boats, aircraft, and law enforcement agencies. Despite the extensive search efforts, no trace of the escapees was ever found. It is widely believed that the inmates perished in the cold and turbulent waters of the bay. This escape attempt highlighted the extreme risks and challenges posed by the waters surrounding Alcatraz Island, effectively reinforcing the prison's reputation as being nearly impossible to escape from. Over the years, there were other escape attempts, some successful and some not, but the myth of Alcatraz's inescapability endures. In popular culture, the story of the 1934 escape attempt has been featured in books, documentaries, and movies, contributing to the mystique and fascination surrounding Alcatraz Island and its history as a high-security federal prison. A group of federal prisoners classified as most dangerous arrives at Alcatraz Island, a 22-acre rocky outcrop situated 1.5 miles offshore in San Francisco Bay, on August 11, 1934. The convicts, the first civilian prisoners to be housed in the new high-security penitentiary, joined a few dozen military prisoners left over from the island's days as a U.S. military prison. Alcatraz was an uninhabited seabird haven when it was explored by Spanish Lieutenant Juan Manuel de Ayala in 1775. He named it Isla de los Alcatrazes, or Island of the Pelicans. Fortified by the Spanish, Alcatraz was sold to the United States in 1849. In 1854, it had the distinction of housing the first lighthouse on the coast of California. Beginning in 1859, a U.S. Army detachment was garrisoned there, and from 1868, Alcatraz was used to house military criminals. In addition to recalcitrant U.S. soldiers, prisoners included rebellious Indian scouts, American soldiers fighting in the Philippines who had deserted to the Filipino cause, and Chinese civilians who resisted the U.S. Army during the Boxer Rebellion. In 1907, Alcatraz was designated the Pacific branch of the United States military prison. In 1934, Alcatraz was fortified into a high-security federal penitentiary designed to hold the most dangerous prisoners in the U.S. penal system, especially those with a penchant for escape attempts. The first shipment of civilian prisoners arrived on August 11, 1934. Later that month, more shiploads arrived, featuring, among other convicts, infamous mobster Al Capone. In September, George "Machine Gun" Kelly, another luminary of organized crime, landed on Alcatraz. In the 1940s, a famous Alcatraz prisoner was Richard Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. A convicted murderer, Stroud wrote an important study on birds while being held in solitary confinement in Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. Regarded as extremely dangerous because of his 1916 murder of a guard at Leavenworth, he was transferred to Alcatraz in 1942. Stroud was not allowed to continue his avian research at Alcatraz. Although some 36 attempted, no prisoner was known to have successfully escaped the rock. However, the bodies of several escapees believed drowned in the treacherous waters of San Francisco Bay were never found. The story of the 1962 escape of three of these men, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, inspired the 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz. Another prisoner, John Giles, caught a boat ride to the shore in 1945 dressed in an army uniform he had stolen piece by piece, but he was questioned by a suspicious officer after disembarking and sent back to Alcatraz. Only one man, John Paul Scott, was recorded to have reached the mainland by swimming, but he came ashore exhausted and hypothermic at the foot of the Golden Gate Bridge. Police found him lying unconscious and in a state of shock. In 1963, U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy ordered Alcatraz closed, citing the high expense of its maintenance. In its 29-year run, Alcatraz housed more than 1,500 convicts. In March 1964, a group of Sioux Indians briefly occupied the island, citing an 1868 treaty with the Sioux allowing Indians to claim any unoccupied government land. In November 1969, a group of nearly 100 Native American students and activists began a more prolonged occupation of the island, remaining there until they were forced off by federal marshals in June 1971. In 1972, Alcatraz was opened to the public as part of the newly created Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which is maintained by the National Park Service. More than 1 million tourists visit Alcatraz Island and the former prison annually. The year was 1934, and Alcatraz Island stood as a symbol of impenetrable isolation in the heart of San Francisco Bay. Its towering cliffs and frigid waters were believed to be an insurmountable barrier, deterring even the most hardened criminals from attempting escape. But within the prison's grim cells, three men harbored a daring dream of freedom. Theodore "Ted" Cole, a charismatic mastermind with a penchant for strategy, had spent years meticulously planning an escape. He had befriended Ralph Roe, a wiry and resourceful inmate known for his uncanny ability to procure contraband. Together, they enlisted the help of William "Billy" Miller, a burly man with a heart of gold who was renowned for his mechanical ingenuity. Over the course of months, the trio meticulously chiseled away at the walls of their cells, hidden behind makeshift curtains. With stolen tools, they crafted a raft from raincoats, strengthening it with pieces of wood smuggled from the prison's workshop. Their plan was audacious. They would wait for a stormy night, when the guards' attention would be diverted, and use the tumultuous waves to their advantage. The fateful night arrived, dark clouds obscuring the moon as winds howled through the bay. Clad in makeshift life vests, the three men squeezed through the openings in their cells. As they descended the treacherous cliffs toward the water's edge, the crash of thunder masked their movements. With hearts pounding, they launched their makeshift raft into the roiling waters. The bay's currents were fierce, threatening to dash their dreams against the unforgiving rocks. The trio paddled furiously, rain stinging their faces as they navigated through the darkness. The distant silhouette of the Golden Gate Bridge provided a beacon of hope, urging them onward. But hope turned to desperation as the raft was buffeted by waves and the icy water sapped their strength. Hours passed, fatigue gnawing at their resolve. Amid the tempest, a rogue wave capsized the raft, plunging them into the frigid abyss. Ted, Ralph, and Billy clung to each other, their determination the only thing keeping them afloat. As the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, a searchlight from Alcatraz swept across the water. Desperate but undeterred, the three men continued to swim, their fingers numbing, their bodies aching. Just as it seemed their efforts were in vain, a fishing boat appeared on the horizon, its crew spotting the struggling figures. Weak and on the brink of hypothermia, Ted, Ralph, and Billy were pulled from the water and onto the boat. Their audacious escape attempt had not gone unnoticed, and their story would become the stuff of legend. The trio's bravery and tenacity captured the public's imagination, shattering the myth of Alcatraz's invincibility. While their escape ultimately failed, Ted, Ralph, and Billy earned a measure of respect from both inmates and guards. Their story served as a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, the human spirit could persevere, challenging the very essence of Alcatraz's infamy. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.